Hey there, my name is Jan Burt. I'm a homeschool mom. I homeschooled my 5 kids for 25 years from preschool to high school, probably a little more than 25 years when you think about those preschool years. They all went off to college, although that's not a requirement for homeschooled kids. And today I'm here answering questions, the most asked questions about homeschooling high school. I'm here as part of the monthly TikTok homeschool conference hosted by Erica Johns, and I encourage you to follow her and her page so that you can have access to all of the prior homeschool conferences. Pretty much anything you would ever have a question about, you're going to be able to search that page and find an answer. So again, let's jump right in. Homeschooling high school, most asked questions, my most asked questions. So if you are kicking the tires on homeschooling high school, or if you are already like a homeschooler and you're just continuing to roll on into high school, you're either thinking about some of these questions, you're asking them yourself, or you're going to be asked them. Like sometimes people poke the bear. So you're going to get asked questions when you homeschool beyond middle school. The questions begin. You get to that 9th grade point and people really, really, really double down on their questions. Number one, is it legal? It is in all the states. Go to hslda.org and you can find all of the information for your individual state, requirements and legalities. And that would include, it should include quick links to your state for your local school district. So you can see, are there any specific graduation requirements that you need to meet per your state standards? Now, that does not apply. It's not as sticky as it used to be. Like when my oldest graduated in 2011, you still really did need to find a way to meet all of those requirements. Now, homeschooling has only grown and gotten easier. And so there's a little more wiggle room is what I'm saying. And you can ask me questions about that in the comments and I will reply to those specifically, like go in depth on that. But here's the thing. If your child is thinking about going to community college or JUCO or a 4-year college, state school, liberal arts, whatever it might be, you probably do want to try to adhere to the graduation standards for your state, just so that it's an easier process with your transcript, putting it together, like the whole creation process, your course descriptions, and then sending that off to the admissions offices. When it aligns with the state standards, it just makes it a little bit easier process. We applied to a lot of colleges. None of my kids applied to just one school. So we have been through this process in state, out of state, East Coast, West Coast, middle of the country. And all of them kind of want that same, it just makes the process easier. So it is legal. Can they go to college? They absolutely can. It's not as hard as you might think. Keep track of their courses, their information, like their information being what are they studying. Just give everything a course title and a course description. Use some kind of a transcript creator. I use transcript writer. I don't even think that's really a thing anymore. I mean, I finished homeschooling in 2018, but you can find far better things than I ever had access to, and just update it like every month. Just do a quick check on it, open the app or whatever, do a check, do an update, move on. Keep track of that because that makes it, having a good transcript, creating them from scratch is no fun. And I did have one transcript get completely deleted at their senior year. And so I had to go back through all the annals of time and all of my planners and their planners and recreate it. It's not fun. So just do that step by step, month by month, if they're going to go to any kind of college thing. Can they, how do they graduate? Another great question. They graduate any way you want them to. You can rent a place and have people come. You can just have an event in your home or in your backyard. You can be part of a homeschool organization graduation in your local community, your city or state. If you have a city or state homeschool organization, they might have one. Is there a ceremony? If you want there to be, if you don't, there won't be. Do they get a diploma? My kids got diplomas as part of the Teaching Parents Association graduation that they participated in, a local homeschool community group that we were part of. But I could have just gotten a diploma from anywhere. It's no different than going to, say, a local private Christian high school. And I say Christian because they almost always are Christian based. That's a non-accredited private school, and they graduate and get diplomas and go on and do anything they want to do. So your homeschooled student in high school is just attending basically a non-accredited private school. That's all. It's just not a government school. It's not funded by taxpayer dollars. That is the only difference. Accredited or non-accredited, that's the difference. Don't let that scare you. It really doesn't mean much of anything at all. Can they play sports? They can. There are always going to be options that are like rec center, city-based sports, club volleyball, club basketball, club whatever, club football. But they also can play at the local public school or via like I mentioned before, a private Christian school. They're almost always Christian schools. They often will allow homeschoolers to play on their team. I had kids that did that. There are pros and cons for both of those, whether they participate or don't. It's not always going to be a positive experience. However, nothing in life is. Evaluate what your end goals are for your student and for your family, what you can do and not do. There's often a lot of travel involved, like in club sports and things. But is it doable? It's absolutely doable, and it can be very beneficial. How do you teach the hard subjects like calculus? I was always asked about calculus. How do you teach calculus? Well, I didn't. I kind of hired it out, right? I mean, I found courses online. Again, I was like in the Stone Ages in 2011 when my oldest graduated, but I figured it out, a way for somebody else to teach him. And then I had him take an ACT at a local college that would allow for dual enrollment. That means you're still in high school, but you're taking college courses. And once he took the ACT at 15, they said, oh yes, he definitely is ready for calculus. And I said, well, okay, I probably don't want him in college calculus right now, but let's put him in college algebra 1. So I was killing two birds with one stone there. When they do dual enrollment, it counts toward their high school credit toward graduation. And this really only matters if they're going to go to like college, even like community college, if they want to play sports there, if that's their end goal. And often it is. That's why they want to go to community college, to extend their time playing the sport that they love a little longer. You do need to keep track of their credits, and your state may need you to keep track of their credits. So dual enrollment means they get credit for its college credit ahead of time and high school credit for that same subject. They both count, and it becomes a weighted grade. So a weighted grade means they earn 1.5 times the normal credit hours, and that's based on something called a Carnegie unit. This many hours becomes a credit, and I will post that in the comments so you can see how many hours equal a Carnegie unit, if it matters to you, if you are really keeping track of this for the sake of the next level goal or for state, standards. So it's not as hard as it seems, having somebody else just explain to you, this is what a credit is, this is how many hours it takes to get half a credit or full credit, and that counts on their transcript. And if they're doing dual enrollment, taking a math class like calculus at a local community college, or it was a 4-year, a full liberal arts private college that my son went to as a 15-year-old. My other kids went to a local, like a technical college, actually, and that counted as well. Either works, but weighted means 1.5 Carnegie units. So it's 1.5 credit instead of just 1 credit for a full year's worth of work. So how do you teach those classes? You just find somebody who can teach them. It might cost a little bit of money to go to a community college. However, it's cheaper to knock those credits out and those gen eds doing dual enrollment than it is to pay full price later on. If they need to do a lab like biology, how do they do that? My kids did a video-based biology lab, and that counted for their 2 years. Like I did that twice they didn't have to do the dissecting of the baby pig. They just watched the video and filled in, the workbook. It actually counted. It may not count in your state, but it probably will. How do you teach driver's ed? Well, I did driver's ed in a box for their actual study part of it, so that they would be studied up in addition to studying we live in Kansas, the Kansas State driver's ed manual, the driver's ed manual, so they could pass the test. And then they drove with me. It's not as scary as it sounds. And also they did driver's ed, so I counted it as coursework. Again, I killed like another bird, 2 birds with 1 stone. I taught them to drive, and I counted it on their transcript to help push them toward however many credits they need to graduate legally in your state. So none of those things is impossible. None of those things is enormously difficult. They all just take some work and effort. But wherever your kids go to school, trust me, you are going to be traveling to watch sports activities. You don't just put them on the yellow school bus and never think about anything again. So they're both work and they're both hard. You're just choosing your hard. So if homeschooling high school is what you're going to do, Don't be scared off by things that seem impossible. Everything really is figure outable and very doable. Okay, jumping back in for the next session with the next most asked questions.